And then Dragon Factory comes out in March. The books are also available as e-downloads for those who have Kindles and other e-book readers.
And in addition to Jonathan's flyer about himself, he does have one on Dragon Factory as well, so you can come get information about that up here. One last question, and I'll throw it out to the audience, just because writing techno-thrillers with these mad scientists who need these guns in order to keep them under control, what is your take on, because obviously you've got good people using science, bad people using science. What is your take in general on I guess, these scientists and their penchant to, a lot of them, to, let's say, press buttons without asking, should I be pressing this button?
Well, you know, it's funny. There are a couple of takes on science and the morality and ethics of how it's used. Michael Crichton's take was that we spend so much time thinking about whether we could, we don't think about whether we should. And that's one view. My view is, I don't think that the motives are clear or clean for most people who are handling the cutting-edge technology. I am enough of an idealist to want and to believe that it's possible for us to be able to manage these technologies. I am, however, enough of a realist to believe that greed is a greater motivating factor than compassion for many people. And unfortunately, since a lot of the people who should never be in power are in power because they've fought to get in power, whether it's business or government, they're often the ones who shouldn't have this technology. You know, we have 19-year-olds and 18-year-olds running the unmanned Predator aircraft that are being used in Afghanistan and Iraq. Yeah, maybe they're really great with video games, but you know, are they mature enough to make decisions? Are they mature enough to handle the material? We have companies that are trying to patent cell lines. It's become a big thing in the press. Crichton did a book called Next about this, where if they can actually patent your cell lines and own your tissue, own your cells. You don't own them. They're trying to patent parts of the human genome and animal genomes for all sorts of creation. They'll get grants of some of these companies because they say, yes, it may help this particular type of disease. And it may. And, of course, they'll profit from that. But I don't really believe that there's as much altruism as there should be. And I do believe there's a lot of greed out there running some of these giant corporations. So science, I think, is often in the hands of the wrong people. And we need stronger watchdogs. And granted, the DMS, as created, is not intended to be a watchdog organization. They're created by, that group was created by someone who no longer has faith that governments and corporations will manage their own technologies in the best interests of the people. So they're there when it goes off the rails. And it's not, it's funny, it's not really, because even though it's a techno thriller and there's combat in it, there's a tendency for people to think, well, that it's a Tom Clancy or Patrick Robinson right-wing sort of thing. Actually, I'm fairly left-wing. I just am the kind of left-wing guy who will pull a trigger in defense of the innocent or ideals. And that's the character Joe is. He doesn't want to start a fight. He really doesn't. But if somebody starts a fight and it's going to overwhelm the general population, then somebody's got to make a stand, and he's the guy. So, but no, I don't trust that science will be used and is being used in the best interests of the people, sadly.
Okay. Well, we'll throw it up to you guys for whatever questions. Just show of hands, and if you please, Mr. Maberry, we have prizes that we can throw at your heads. So, right here.
I have a two-part question. The first one is that I wanted Zombie CSU since I saw it last year, but I can't find it anywhere downstairs or upstairs inside of the shops. Okay,
Larry Smith, bookseller in the dealer's room, has had 5 copies of Zombie CSU yesterday. And every bookstore should carry it. And for some bizarre reason, it's in the metaphysical section. Yes, and this actually makes me bleed from the pores. This is the 3rd book I did. Zombie CSU is the 3rd book I did for Citadel Press. The first 2, Vampire Universe and the Cryptopedia, were in fact metaphysical, cult, paranormal, so on. they consider this a book in that series. It's not. It's pop culture. You know, there's a George Romero Zombies. So every bookstore had it, but it was in metaphysical, and nobody saw it there. Luckily, people ordered it online, and you can get it from any bookstore. Any independent bookstore, any bookstore can order it because it's still available. It's actually now in second printing. Larry Smith had some copies yesterday. He also has copies of Patient Zero and They Bite, which is my new, the fourth in that series, or third if you discount Zombie CSU's Metaphysical, which deals with supernatural predators and folklore and fiction, and has interviews with John Carpenter and Mike Mignola and just tons of pop culture folks. Jack Ketch and Peter Straub. It's a lot of fun. So that was your first part of the question.
The second part is that I take public transportation every day, long, and I've gotten into the habit of listening to audiobooks. Is there any chance that these would turn into audiobooks?
Not at the moment, but anything's possible. With Patient Zero, since it was a zombie techno thriller, they didn't really think that was going to hit the mainstream. And audiobooks are usually mainstream. Audiobooks are almost always done for hardbacks, and these are trade paperback originals. We'll see what happens when the third book, King of Plagues, comes out. Now, there is a possibility that my first young adult novel, which is really written for adults, we're just calling it young adults because those publishers pay better, Rotten Ruin, which comes out next fall. That may be an audio. Rotten Ruin. It's the first of at least two zombie novels set 14 years after the events, very similar to Night of the Living Dead, where something caused the dead to rise, and anybody who dies can rise as a zombie. And it's a 15-year-old kid who has to get a job, so he's apprenticing to his zombie hunter brother. And it'll be out in hardback from Simon & Schuster in the fall, to be followed by Dust and Decay the following year. And that may be an audiobook. We'll see how that goes. That's really up to the publisher, though.
Yeah, in the back.
Sorry.
Like everyone else at DragonCon, I think I can write a book. Your writing in the genre that you were always a fan of, how do you draw the line, or what safeguards do you use to ensure that your original idea isn't actually something that you got from somebody else 30 years ago and just don't remember it?
Yeah, you can't copyright an idea. So I can write, anyone who's written a zombie novel ever since Night of the Living Dead is copying off George Romero. And George Romero copied off I Am Legend, the vampire novel by Richard Matheson. So you can't copyright an idea. You can only copyright, or you should only concern yourself about the specific way in which you write it. So if I were to write a novel about a group of colonial marines going out in space to fight aliens, it may be, people say, well, yeah, that's kind of like Aliens. In that regard, in that one colonial marines, aliens, one-sentence description. But the way in which I would write the book would be different. And an existing genre is always looking for more books to satisfy that audience. Because once somebody has read Brian Keene's books and David Wellington's and Max Brooks's and mine, if they're really into zombies, they're going to want the next zombie book. And we're putting out novels a year apart for the most part. And Max Brooks has only written 2 books in 5 years. So the audience has to be fed. So you can always write something new in that same genre. You could actually write a book about a kid going to school for wizardry. And I just wouldn't call him like Larry Nodder. That might get you in trouble. But if you're a writer and you have a good idea for a book in an existing genre, that's the higher chance of selling than if you're a writer and you have an idea for a book that fits in no known genre, because you can't sell that at all. And I also believe that everyone who thinks they should write a book should write a book, because almost everyone has at least one good book in them.